Hi, I'm Joe Saunders with Miniature Landscape Hobbies, and in this episode, I'm going to tell you a story about airbrush trouble. But don't worry, it all turns out fine in the end, thanks to my friends at Maple Airbrush Supply. Hi, I'm Joe Saunders from Miniature Landscape Hobbies, and I'm here at Maple Airbrush Supply in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. When you come here, you can get all kinds of support with your airbrush. As most of my viewers know, I'm pretty new to airbrushes, and I've been a little stumped at times. Recently, I've been getting a lot of water in my line. So I contacted them by email, and they gave me all of the information and the supplies I needed to get my problem solved. One painting session, just like any other painting session, I sat down to my trusty Pash airbrush and started to get to work. And then I saw something. There was water in my line. Now, as I understand it, having water in your airbrush line is a fairly common thing, but it is a real pain. If the water goes down the line and into the airbrush nozzle, it'll prematurely dilute your paint and will make it form sort of a spiderweb pattern all over whatever it is you're painting. Obviously, this is an inconvenience, and it's especially problematic when you're painting something as small as a 1/100 scale model. So, using my limited understanding of airbrushes, I took my airbrush and pulled it apart and cleaned it. I then also went ahead and took my compressor apart and cleaned that as well, drying it out and also drying out the hose. But despite this, nothing I tried made any appreciable difference. I even tried running a dehumidifier nearby. Now, for the average hobbyist, this probably isn't a very big deal. You can just leave your airbrush hose off your compressor for a couple days and let it dry out. But for me, it is a bit of a problem. Between the channel, my Etsy store, regular wargaming, and the odd commission, I just don't have a lot of time to spare. And when it comes to painting and building models, I keep a pretty tight schedule. To make matters worse, or maybe better, depending on how you look at it, I was about to go on vacation. I was headed out west to the provinces of BC and Alberta for 3 weeks. Because of COVID-19, just like many other people, it had been a couple years since I'd had a decent vacation, and I really needed it. In fact, my whole family was really excited to go. But the problem is, if I didn't have my airbrush issue fixed, I was going to be really stuck with a huge backlog when I got back. So now I did what I think a lot of people would do. I went to Amazon and looked for options to fix my problem. Problem was, of course, there's a bewildering variety of accessories for airbrushes, and the problem was specific enough that I really just couldn't solve it on a nameless and faceless website. And the few people that I talked to really didn't have much to offer to help me. But then I came up with a really novel idea. I googled airbrush supplies in Canada, and what came up was a business called Maple Airbrush Supply. I went to their website, and what I found was amazing. I contacted them, and they gave me the details right away, the products I needed to fix my problem, and told me exactly how to do it. With the problem solved, another, although fairly small, snag came up. You see, Canada's a really big country, and Maple Airbrush Supply is in the city of Edmonton, where I live about a week's drive away in a little town north of Toronto. This meant that shipping, though Maple Airbrush was happy to send it, would be pretty killer.
As you can imagine, when it comes to things like shipping, I'm pretty cheap. You see, the less money I spend on things like shipping, the more money I can spend on models. And models make me happy. Shipping, not so much. Nevertheless, to solve this problem, I was willing to foot the bill, but then something great happened. I remembered I was going on vacation. And where was I going? My plane was about to land in Edmonton in just 2 weeks. So, when I arrived in Edmonton, I got off the plane, hopped in my rental car, and went directly to Maple Airbrush Supply.
What I saw when I got there was amazing. The store had a selection of model building and painting supplies that I've just simply never seen in one place before. It was great. While I was there, I also picked up some weathering pencils because I've always wanted to give these a try. And I got a handy little container of black putty for masking off my camouflage patterns. Of course, I also got a full explanation on how to set up my airbrush, some more tips for a few other problems I was handling, and the parts to get everything back up and running. Now, unfortunately, my vacation is over, but fortunately, my airbrush is working like a champ. It's never worked this well, and I'm not having any more problem with moisture in my line. Despite that, this story is not all rainbows and unicorns. I left my camouflage masking putty in a little hotel that's pretty much in the middle of nowhere in the town of Hope, BC, which is incidentally where they also filmed Rambo.
Thanks for watching. And an extra special thanks to Donna and Alyssa from Maple Airbrush Supplies. Helping me out with this little problem went a long way. It just goes to show that when it comes to requiring real expertise, you just can't beat your friendly local hobby shop. If you ever make it to Edmonton, Alberta, or you're in the area and need some airbrush supplies, make sure to check them out. You won't be disappointed. That's it for this episode. Thanks and see you next time. And remember, until then, keep building life in miniature.